This finish is the best finish I've ever seen. It's called Perlin, but it's very expensive, and it's very reactive with oxygen. It oxidizes very easily. In other words, it'll set up and go bad on you. I had about a half a can of it one time that I loaned to a guy, a young guy making a guitar, and he couldn't get the lid off, so he just took some channel locks or vice grips or something, squished it and got it off. But it never did seal after that, and it went bad. In about 2 weeks I lost about a half a can. That's about 50 bucks. Especially now with COVID, you know how COVID attacks finish. So what I do is I talked to the manufacturer of this stuff, and they told me that you can replace the air in there with anything that doesn't have oxygen in it. Acetylene is what they recommended, not lit, but just acetylene. And then I decided, well, since I didn't have acetylene that I wanted to shoot in there, I just breathe in it and replace the oxygen with carbon dioxide, and it doesn't react with carbon dioxide, so this keeps it for months. I can use out of this same can for months, maybe 6-8 months before it'll go bad. So I just blow into it. And then I slap that piece of plastic on there and I seal it up. This is a brand new can. And I squish it, get the air, get everything I can out of it, and then seal it up, double seal it with that piece of plastic. And it may be a silly system, but it works for me. Tell you what, holding that thing up with your wrist, all that weight out there and holding it up with one hand, after a while, you just about make your hand cramp. I charge an extra $75 for Mannlichers because everything about them, it's just an extra pain to do. I have put, I'm not sure how many coats on this, several, probably 7 or 8 with a brush, and I'm down to the last 2 coats, and I put the last 2 coats on with a sprayer because I can put it on a lot slicker and more controlled than with a brush. So I have sanded it with, I've been sanding it with 400 paper between coats, but this last time I sanded it with 600. Even with that, spraying it with a very light coat, you'll see little tiny, little bitty sand marks in there. So what I do is I spray it twice, and with the instructions on this permalin, they say if you spray it, if you reapply it within 4 hours, you don't have to resand it. You don't have to scuff it again if you do it within 4 hours. So, and I found out that that works very well. So I'm fixing to put the next to the last coat on with a sprayer. These Mannlicher stocks don't look like there's much out there on that end, but it's so far out there. Trying to hold it up with right there. If your shoulders are about half wore out like mine, it's a challenge. That's a load. It's like picking up your shoes on the end of a broomstick, if you remember that one. When I was a kid, there was a test of strength that people would attempt, and these guys that claimed to be really stout, I never saw but one of them could do that. You put your pair of shoes on the end of a broom and try to pick it up with one hand. And I only saw one guy could do that, and he was a beast. Sounds easy, it's not. I'm just going to give a real quick rundown on checkering, and then I'm going to just skip through most of it. These lines are A lines, these lines are B lines. When they cross, you get a row of diamonds that's perpendicular to both of these. If these are straight and these are straight, your diamonds will be straight. If they're not, they don't look good. I've got my outline and my master lines already scratched in. I'm just going to clean them out with a single cutter. I'm just cleaning the finish out and deepening them just a teeny bit. I don't do my borders until I'm finished. And the reason is, as I'm checkering, I'm constantly bumping into that border. I'll just kind of nose into it. If I cut that now, that bump goes further out and it's harder to clean up later. So I never clean up my outside lines until I'm done with everything else. I'm going to checker, I'm going to scratch them in. That's my first layout. And then I'm going to deepen them however many passes it takes to deepen them until I get them to full diamonds. I like to leave my diamonds a little bit flat on top. They have a teeny bit of a sparkle. Once that's done, you'll see just a little, almost like glitter scattered here and there, because this is finished. And then I leave that little flat part, and that flat part's finished, and I put black linseed oil, which is a great preservative, and it also has a nice contrast to the walnut, and your black butt pad and your trigger guard and all that stuff's black. So that's just a real fast rundown. Other than that, I'm going to skip through most of this because it's very boring. I like it. It's not boring to me. I hate monotonous stuff, repetitious stuff. I just don't like it. But to me, every single line is a challenge. Starting in the right place, stopping in the right place, keeping it parallel, keeping it straight, keeping the depth right. Every single line is a challenge. So even though I hate repetition, I like this. It doesn't make sense, I know. I never claimed to make sense. That's okay. This is just what I like. But it's boring to watch. If I had to try to watch someone do it, I'd probably be bored out of my mind. So I'm going to cut 22 lines per inch on this, which is fairly fine. It's considered fine in the checking industry. To go with anything finer than 20 is considered pretty fine. What I'm doing is using a double cutter. Now that I got that first line scratched in there, I have just now cut 2 lines parallel to each other. And then I'm going to use, to lay it out, I'm going to use a triple cutter. Because this grain goes that way on this side, that way on this side, it's hard for me to start all the way over here and go against the grain. I'll have to flip it around and cut this direction. Anyway, I've got my double line in there. Now I'm going to go with a triple, and the rest of the layout will be with the triple cutter.